Stefan Molyneux, in his talk, The Truth About Frozen, seems unaccountably to lurch in and out of what appears to be an uncontrollable urge to impersonate William Shatner as he portrays Captain Kirk in the original Star Trek series. His unaccountable shifts in rhythm and intonation, his strange gestures which he employs. Why? Why? His way that he says, "My God," all point toward this strange similarity to William Shatner's portrayal of Captain Kirk, and perhaps call to mind a repressed, unexpressed aspect of the phenomenon which he is trying to describe. The original Star Trek series was characterized by an unending and unsuccessful attempt to find eternal youth. Captain Kirk in particular was duplicated unsuccessfully in many different ways in 5 or 6 different episodes. In one, a woman was put inside his body. In another, he was split into 2 by a bizarre transporter malfunction, with one half of him the base animal desire to drink and have sex and control other people, but possessing in the end one thing that the supposedly good Kirk, rational Kirk, did not fully grasp. I want to live! I want to live! This is the cry that resounds throughout William Shatner's career as Captain Kirk and afterwards. His defining utterance in the famous, iconic Saturday Night Live skit, Get a Life, when he told his own fans to do so, was a cathartic moment for him. He'd never been able to truly understand the love, the outpouring of affection he felt during those brief moments when he would take stage at a Star Trek convention. Until his own character, Captain Kirk, was killed in the Star Trek movie Generations, and his career fell apart, his life fell apart, without this fictional extension of himself, whose immortality he had taken for granted for so long. He even went on to write non-canonical Star Trek fiction, in which Captain Kirk found the way to keep himself young, and went on going on adventures into the era of the next generation, and could still fight people the way he did in his youth when he was chronologically over 100 years old. But Shatner couldn't come to this realization until he was deprived of the attention that his character had given him, and went into the point of view of his own fans, went in disguise to his own Star Trek conventions, wearing a mask, in order to see what it was like to be outcast, downtrodden, looked down upon by other members of society who could see you as a geek or a nerd, to be a nonconformist. And here we come to the strange contradiction in Stefan Molyneux's own programming. If you want to see the truth about Frozen debunked, well, there are a couple of things which I've discussed in my own videos that he completely ignores the role of the possibility of rejuvenation in society and how it affects and distorts the ruling classes, who in Frozen are withholding that power from the masses. But one of the best arguments against Molyneux's own position in The Truth About Frozen can be found in one of his own videos, which he had done before, months before, in which he says that nonconformity is treated as mental illness. This is the title of the video. He and his guest say how horrible, how chilling it is that the least mentally afflicted members of society who speak up about how they're being mistreated, how they're being driven mad, are the ones treated as if they had the problem. The victim is blamed, shut up, muzzled, put in a mental hospital, given sadistic, barbaric forms of treatment for the supposed illness, when the ones doing the treatment are in fact the sickest, when society itself is sick. Much like in Frozen, we take for granted that an environment that is, for more than half of the year, inhospitable and actively dangerous, and it's cold, is somehow normal and healthy, and must be preserved at all costs by the ruling classes. It must not be allowed to get any warmer. There must not be wealth in the form of precipitation made available to people, and made available to people in hot climates where they really need it. So this madness, then, is built into the fabric, the climate of the movie. A major factor for people who have drug addiction, a precursor, viewed by many to mental illness today, is their failure to connect socially and environmentally with their surroundings. But how can anyone connect in a healthy way with an environment that is, though beautiful and powerful, also deadly? Yet we seem to still want, our rulers still seem to want, to impose this upon us. And Molyneux is actively arguing against that particular form of population control and driving people mad by enforcing the presumed desirability of keeping portions of the earth cold. But he does not speak up at all about the repression of cloning and technology that could make people young. He protests when our culture, manipulated by the rulers of the media and the political system, demonizes the means of Adam's creation, exhalation, to produce water and carbon dioxide. But he says nothing when the same methods are used to demonize the methods of Eve's creation, cloning. And here we see this strange dichotomy, this split, as if Stefan Molyneux is this creation of some bizarre transporter malfunction. One moment he seems to make, quote, good sense, arguing from points that are well supported, with references from the actual movie. Others, he goes completely off base, seems to have no bearing at all to the movie he's watched, or contradicts himself in the way he refers to some other part of the movie. Love is an open door? Really? Just because Elsa slams the door in the viewer's face, demonstrating narcissism, which I would agree with, does not mean that it's healthy to open the door to someone like Elsa. And Hans is very good at imitating Elsa. So we have this constant contradiction. And a troll, of course, is someone who promotes contradiction. A troll is defined by recent studies as someone who's very high in the personality characteristics of narcissism and psychopathy and sadism, which are the drivers of the movie, but which somehow Stefan Molyneux fails to recognize and point out in the trolls themselves, although they make concerted efforts to turn one sister against the other and perpetuate the cover-up of what was done to Anna and make it possible to start the events in motion which will cause the death of Anna's parents and Elsa's parents. The most important issues are noticeable only in their absence, just as Molyneux says at one point in discussing Frozen, when he talks about how the women have no preparation for statecraft. But they have worked hard, most likely. There is a reference to a hard-working scene that is the opening of Tangled, the sister movie of Frozen. And it seems likely from that Anna had a similar background to Rapunzel, that she in fact was hard-working. And as someone who most likely has access to magic that will allow her to stay young, she has no worries about her reproductive value following. And therefore, Molyneux's entire analysis of the sexual politics of Frozen and his analysis of the presumed sacrificial ending, where Anna briefly dies and is willing to die for Elsa, is all flawed, because Elsa could have reversed the process at any time, always had the power to warm herself, and is most likely acting, pretending to be more vulnerable than she really is. This calls a huge proportion of Molyneux's analysis into question. Frozen simply cannot be fully understood unless we realize that it takes place in a setting, a fantasy setting, which is a metaphor for a technological setting in which the means of making people young are not necessarily unavailable.